good evening or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I am about to go live with the amazing Alka Joshi, international best-selling author and novelist of the trilogy, Jaipur trilogy, The Henna Artist, The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, and The Perfumist of Paris. And now she's publishing a new book. Let me get her on. She's publishing a new book, 6 Days in Bombay. She is also a Reese Witherspoon book club author, an LA Times bestseller. Hello, Alka.
Hi, Stephanie. How nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. Thank you for having a chat with me today. Oh, lots of people coming. Oh, let me wave at all of them. Alka, you've had an amazing couple of weeks. You've been to the Forbes Summit in Abu Dhabi. You need to tell us all about it. But shall we start with your new book, 6 Days in Bombay? It is going to be published on the 15th of April. It's on pre-order now. You've had so much success with the Jaipur trilogy. Let's talk a little bit about the new book first, and then you can tell us about the Forbes Summit, how amazing that was. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we can accelerate action for women more and what that means to you.
Okay. So 6 Days in Bombay started with this young woman, and a woman who lived many, many decades ago.
Yeah.
Her name was Amrita Sher Gill, and she was a prodigious painter. She was half Hungarian and half Indian.
Wow.
And so she had been raised primarily in Hungary. She had studied with painting masters in Paris, in Florence, all these fabulous places. And then at some point, her father thought that it would be safer for them, because her mother was a Jewess, thought it would be safer for them to be in India, because I don't know if you knew this or not, but it came as a surprise to me that India has been a safe haven for Jews for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so Amrita's families, took her there. But the thing about Amrita that was so amazing was that she not only had confidence in her artistic ability, but she was also uncaring of what anybody else thought of her. So she was the most flamboyant person in the room. Sometimes she would be dressed in fabulous saris. Sometimes she would be in, the latest Paris fashions. She also slept with men and women and anybody who intrigued her, even after she was married. And so she had this sort of devil may care attitude that I think is really intriguing to me, because I wish I were somebody who could just, follow my bliss and just do whatever it is I wanted to do without caring about what other people think. And I think there's so few people like that in this world. And Amrita was one of those. But here's the other thing I found intriguing, is that she died when she was 28 years old in a hospital in India. And she entered the hospital complaining of some abdominal pain and so on, and then was dead 2 days later. Very healthy young woman, just completely gone in 2 days. And I think that had she lived longer, she probably would have been a household name today. I would love for her to be a household name, the same way that Frida Kahlo is a household name, the way that Mary Cassatt is a household name, the way that Georgia O'Keeffe is a household name. I would like for that to happen. And I think she deserves it, definitely, because of the contribution she made to the world of art. So I decided to write a book based on her life. And the most intriguing part that I wanted to explore was, how did a young woman so healthy, so confident, so in this world, how did she die? All the information that is available about her doesn't make this clear. There's all kind of presuppositions. So I thought, wouldn't it be fascinating if the young woman who's taking care of her in the hospital in India somehow gets privileged knowledge about how this young woman died. And maybe she gets that knowledge by following the young woman's footsteps throughout Europe. Now I had to figure out how would this happen? How would this nurse be allowed to do something like that? And I thought, well, what if the painter, who is the patient at the hospital, what if the painter bequeaths her paintings
Mm.
with the idea that she is to deliver those to this painter's former friends and lovers, because she had so many lovers. And so I thought, okay, now that makes for a very interesting premise, and let me see how far that would go. And then I was thinking, okay, so how would these two women connect? Like, what is it about the two of them, a patient and a nurse, that would connect the two of them? Well, the patient is half European and half Indian.
Yeah.
What if the nurse herself was also half Indian and half European?
Mm.
And so they connect on this sort of dual identity level. The difference between them is that the painter is very comfortable with her dual identity. She can shift very easily back and forth. But the nurse is not comfortable with her identity
Mm.
because she is half Indian and half British.
Okay.
Now, the British East India Company made it very clear to all their employees that they would be favorably looked upon if they formed alliances with Indian women and had children who were half and half, because somehow it would allow the East India Company to infiltrate the community of Indians a lot faster if there were some of the progeny who were half and half,
Mm.
and also progeny who would understand both languages. So this is how this nurse came about. She came about from one of those alliances between her Indian mother and her British father. And part of what happened is that the British father left, as so many Britishers did. Once they were no longer needed in India to work, they went back to their families, their original families, their home counties, all of that. And they left these progeny behind. And the progeny came to be known as Anglo Indians. The nurse is an Anglo Indian who, of course, has some issues with her parentage, has some issues with this father who left her behind at the age of 3 years old with her mother. And so this all of a sudden now, this is like making for a very intriguing home life also, and this whole other side of the Indian diaspora that is half Indian and half something else that I thought was really interesting to explore. So this is what happens in the book. This nurse is going to travel all over Europe, tracing the footsteps of this deceased painter to try to see if she can piece together the painter's life and also why the painter died at such a young age.
And she must have, and this friendship that they must have struck up in the hospital must have given her the courage to actually do that, because she was obviously half English, half Indian, but grew up in India. And I'm sure that story, all the things that you wove together, will make for an amazing story and non-put downable read. These beautiful sweeping stories that you tell so beautifully, where you always satisfy all of our senses, right? Because it's about reading, but really the way you describe things, we hear things, we see things, we smell things, we feel like we're really in it. And that's why you are such a celebrated writer, Alka. And so we all can't wait for, and there are so many messages here. I can't really read even all of them, but there is a lot of messages of people joining us in this live saying, we love you, Alka, and we
Oh,
love your book. So that's really nice. We're so excited. So I don't know, have you started a book tour already? Is that going to happen? Tell us a little bit about what's going to happen around the release of this book, and tell us about the FORB Summit. That was a women's summit in Abu Dhabi. Tell us a little bit about that in the backdrop of really women's spaces actually right now looking and feeling like our spaces are smaller. And I listened to Tina Brown and Maureen Dowd, and you may think whatever you want about them. They're, wise old owls, writers and journalists who've spoken to every important person in the world. And over the weekend, they had a conversation and said, women are done. Women are done. we've had our moment and now we're done. And I think given that this seems to be the general notion of the times that we live in since a couple of months, I think it's especially important to talk about the Forbes Summit in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, absolutely. So, just as you're doing with SheCan, Stephanie, what Mika Brzezinski wanted to do for women over the age of 50 is to say, hey, you are not done. No woman is ever done. Any age, a woman can contribute to this world, can do phenomenal things, can share her contributions with this world. And so what she did was, hey, Forbes has a 30 under 30 list, all these fabulous women under the age of 30 who are doing incredible things, and only 30 of them are chosen from thousands and thousands of names. Why don't we do something for women over the age of 50? We are not dead. We are still contributing. And how about that?
Yeah.
So she talked to Forbes. They formed this 50 over 50 list. They culled 10,000 names a year, and then they choose 50 women. So 2 years ago, I was chosen as one of the 50. I was shocked because I thought, well, all I do is write novels. There are women on the 50 over 50 list who are running hedge funds. They are running medical institutions. They are curing cancer. I'm not doing any of those things. But what they pointed out to me is that arts and culture and entertainment are also ways in which women are contributing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are some of the most significant ways in which women are contributing in an external world. So a lot of people see our names, a lot of people see our work because we are in the public forum constantly. So I think that is valuable. And they said that, Alka, you're writing about women's agency, and that's the important thing. Yeah. So I'm constantly wanting for women to explore how far they can take their talents. My protagonists are always women who are fighting the odds, fighting obstacles, trying to figure out, as I think most women do in this world, women are like water. They will go around an obstacle if they can't get through it, if they can't blast it. Men would be prone to blast a rock in their way, right?
Yeah.
But women have this unique ability to go around obstacles in a very indirect manner and still accomplish what they need to accomplish. And that's what my protagonists are really experts at. So that's what I always try to do. So the summit is something where they are combining the 30 under 30 list with the 50 over 50 list. And so we have this group of women who are under 30 and a group of women who are over 50. And we are on panels. We are discussing all kinds of things about women's agency and about our financial health, about our physical health, all kinds of things that I think, help us all grow. So it was a phenomenal summit in that. It was very high level, really high level. Like, I think it's the most high level thing I have ever attended in my life, never expecting to go to anything like this. And there were, not only was Mika Brzezinski there, but also Huma Abedin, who is her vice chair for the 50 over 50 list, and Maggie McGrath, who is the chairwoman or the senior editor of Forbes Women, and puts all of these kinds of lists together. So it was an incredible opportunity to be with such high-powered women, all of whom are very grateful for whatever they can learn from each other. I thought, oh, these under 30s, they're going to think we're old hat. What do we have to impart to them? I was surprised at how many of them came up to me after my presentations and said, I learned so much. There are some nuggets that I'm going to take away with me and use forever.
Amazing. Oh, Alka, what an incredible jet fuel, right? That really puts the agency that you have supercharges this. And I think this is how we have to see these times. These are extraordinary times, and we have to take all our purposes much more seriously,
Yes.
even than before, supercharge them, use that as fuel, and turn it into something where we are impactful. Um, you said that earlier, follow your bliss. And that's exactly what you do for us, the readers, right? You give us the chance to escape our lives for whatever, however many hours a day or a week, or however much people have the time to read. And you make us escape into worlds that aren't our own. We learn a lot. We learn about your heroines that are always incredibly portrayed, and really show this agency of women who are freeing themselves from societal expectations and patriarchal structures and, family hierarchies, etc. pp. And you do that in such a beautifully female way, where you portray these characters that use every tool in the toolbox to achieve what they find in pursuance of their purpose.
Right.
Alka, what do you feel? How could we accelerate action together? What does it mean for you?
I think for me, it means being able to speak authentically about my journey and the journey of my characters, and that they are not perfect. And I think sometimes we make the mistake of thinking that we can't tell people about our accomplishments if we are not perfect,
Mm.
if we haven't done everything absolutely to 100%. But nobody can claim that. We all make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes. I learned a long time ago that in baseball, a really good batting average is 1 in 3. So for every 3 hits, if you hit the ball once, you're doing really well, like exceptionally well. And most people can't even make that mark. We're talking about professional baseball players who play, for years and years and years to get to these levels. But women, I think we hold ourselves to such a high standard that somehow we think that we need to be 100% in every single arena of our life, and we don't.
Yeah.
We can set examples for people in whatever arena of life we are excelling in, and maybe not 100%, but whatever it is that we have learned in that arena, we can share with
Yeah.
others. I was just at a writer's retreat this last week, and there were 25 women there. And I told them about this journey that took me 10 years to write that first novel and to get it published. And so many of them came up to me afterwards and they said, "Oh, I was about to give up because I have spent 2 years doing this, or I spent 4 years doing this. And I'm thinking, if I'm not there yet, then I have not succeeded." And this is the mistake that I think Maureen O'Dowd is making. I think this is the mistake that Tina is making by saying that our time is over. No, I just think we've had a setback. It is a normal setback. We always have setbacks. Women have had setbacks through the ages, but then we will take a few steps forward. Just watch us. We will take a few steps forward, and we just have to keep plugging away at what we do best, which is to go around obstacles that are in our path.
Yeah. Alka, and how can we strengthen this sisterhood that we should be having, right? We should always have this attitude of trying to understand, trying to accept, even if we agree to disagree on certain issues, and always have this notion of, I got your back. In the end, I got your back, right? So we shouldn't have women voting for something that ultimately harms other women, which is where we are right now. We have total abortion bans. We have women dying on the hand of other women voting for someone. So these are quite extreme scenarios. How can we strengthen the way that we can work together and the way we can live together, and to turn this around of where we are right now, where the division is so big that we all have to hold against it?
I think that what we can do is present our points of view in a way that other people can hear it. So not with voices that are strident, although, if that works for some, and so, that is perfectly good for them to do that and comfortable for them. But I think that in that sort of indirect way that I was talking about, I think it's good to always have discussions with people that ask them, well, why do you feel this way? How do you feel this way? How do you think that if we all felt that way, what would it do to our daughters? What would it do to our granddaughters? I think when we personalize it in that way about how it affects our family circles, as opposed to just this amorphous public out there, then I think that it makes a difference in people's perceptions. And I'll give you an example. When my book, when the Henna Artist was first out, uh, I read on Goodreads, which is where a lot of authors will read comments that readers are making about their books. That a woman said, "Don't read this book; it has abortion in it." Now, in all of my books, I deal with the kinds of things that women deal with every single day. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying, here is a woman who is dealing with this problem. Here's another woman trying to help her. Or here's yet a third woman who is dealing with a different kind of problem. And I want to present these problems and how these women are tackling the issues.
Yeah.
And so I panicked because 487 women had liked this woman's comment. I called my agent. I said, "Oh my God, nobody's going to buy this book." And she said, "Don't worry about it. Just don't respond. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but that doesn't mean you need to attack them back or, explain or anything like that." She said, "And by the way, don't read comments. We tell authors, don't read any reader comments. Just do what you do best." Okay, so I went on. And then a couple of years ago, I was in South Carolina. I'm doing an author talk. And a woman waited for me until the end of the signing line, which took an hour. And I thought, she wants to talk to me about something. So she came up to me and she said, "Now, Alka, I have read all your books. They are really fascinating. It's hard for me to put them down. But I am a pro-life woman. I do not believe in abortion. But here is what I will say. Your books have given me a broader understanding of why a woman would choose this option." And so now when I'm in my conservative circles and I'm talking to women about this issue, I can say, well, have you considered that there are women who pose whose lives pose these problems, and this is why they choose an option like this.
Yeah.
So I was so amazed that, first of all, she had the open mind to be able to absorb my books, but not say, "Well, I have to agree with everything Alka's saying," but really be able to openly understand why these women are choosing certain options that she doesn't personally agree with.
Yeah.
But here's an example of something that I think we need to all talk about, that I did talk about in my books, and it made a difference in this woman's life. And I thought, for every woman who tells me that my book made a difference in her life, there's got to be thousands of others, tens of thousands of others, based on how many people have bought, my books, that are probably feeling the same thing, but I never had a chance to hear from them about it.
Definitely. I think it's grace. It's grace when you let that happen and you let yourself be influenced in a way that you wouldn't have thought. And I think this is what we need more. We need more grace-filled conversations, and we need all the conversations, right? We need the conversations that are pro and con and all the nuances in between. And I feel the nuances being taken away right now. So we have to cling on to that. And you are very right. We have to bring it back to the personal and back to the human side, right? We're humans. We're here. We're birthing the future generations. Let's talk about those personal stories. Alka, you're such a leader because you lead in a beautiful way, publishing your novels, going around, doing writers' retreats, influencing writers everywhere. How do you feel you lead? What kind of a leader are you and do you want to be?
Well, this is really interesting I always looked to other women as women who inspired me, women whom I wanted to be like, women whom I wanted to dress like, because I thought, you know, just in their presence, they are making a statement. Um, and I never considered that I might be one of those women someday for
Definitely.
others. So
Definitely.
what I like to present is an authenticity where I say, look, I'm not 100% perfect. There are lots of things that I do not understand, that I do not know, that I do not do correctly, and that's okay. And that's okay for you as well. You know, you can also be imperfect. You can also be a leader and be imperfect. Um, I think I also lead through vulnerability.
Yes.
And I think that this is really important. I think sometimes people feel that in order to be a leader, and I think this is sort of a masculine version of leadership, that you always have to be strong and macho and you cannot let your guard down. I think it's okay to let your guard down. I think those are the most powerful moments of
Yeah.
connection with other women. When I let my guard down and I go, you know what, that really you know, touched me, or that really hurt me, or that is an experience which I learned something from because it was painful for me. So I think authenticity and vulnerability are the ways that I lead. Other women, you know, have other ways
Yeah.
that they might
Yeah.
lead.
Yeah. Well, it's a very powerful way of leading, and we are so grateful that you're doing it the way you're doing it, because it's so uh, um, receivable. It's so easy to dock onto that and to learn from that. Um, Alka, I'm wondering, and maybe it's a little bit what you already said, but there'll be younger girls listening to this, and there'll be, some might know what their purpose is, and many of them don't. What tips can you give them to feel more heard and seen, and to then ultimately find their ways and their purposes?
Okay, number one, I would say do not expect perfection of yourself. You are good if you're batting 1 in 3 and you're successful with 1 in 3 projects that you take on, you're doing really, really well. So keep that in mind. Number two, um, go ahead and say what you feel, but learn how to say it properly. One of the things that I am continually doing is learning how to communicate better. And I think that there are so many resources now, given the internet, that we can do that. I rely on YouTube. I look at YouTube for, you know, how do I negotiate a very difficult relationship?
Mm.
How do I communicate a complicated subject, but in a very simple manner? There are master classes that you can take in any of these things. There are retreats you can go to where you can really learn from them. And if you don't have the money, many of these places have scholarships where you can apply for a scholarship and be able to have just as much information as somebody who's paid a lot of money to do something like this. So I think that keep learning how to communicate better, keep learning how to make your points heard. I think that that's one of the most important things. You know, in my 20s and 30s, I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. In my 20s and 30s, I knew how to present to a C-suite, but there was so much I didn't understand that was happening behind the scenes. And I think it behooves every young woman to find a mentor who can help her
Yeah.
understand what is actually being said
Mm.
and what's being said behind the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, these are things that I think every woman needs. Every woman needs a mentor, just like every man in business has a mentor. Find yours.
Yeah. Amazing. Alka, if you could write a postcard to every person in the world with a sentence, what would that be?
You are everything you need to be and want to be right now.
Yeah.
Every woman has the knowledge inside. Every woman has the wisdom. We all have the insights inside here. And I think that what we do is spend the rest of our lives trying to access that because we have it all here. Don't think that the outside world has it. You have it right here.
Amazing. Alka, you are the best person to talk to. You are obviously a SheCan role model. Your story is up on SheCan World on YouTube, on the website, and 6 Days in Bombay is coming out on the 15th of April. We would love for everyone to pre-order. Yes, ah, beautiful. I cannot wait to get it. I'm so excited, Alka, and all the very best of luck. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And thanks to everybody out there. And I hope you guys have a great Monday.
Yes, and you too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.